This week's episode is brought to you by Campaign Refinery, an amazing new email marketing automation tool. Look, in the world of digital marketing, there's a lot to keep track of. We all know this. As much as we're in love with social media and the power of social conversation here at Social Link and on the All About Digital Marketing podcast, we are well aware at just how powerful email marketing can be. Email marketing is not dead. In fact, it's never been more important to help you leverage your presence everywhere else into the one channel that you'll own, regardless of what changes Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform makes in the future. I've known the founder, Travis Ketchum, for years, and he's been a past guest on the podcast, episode 15 if you want to listen to it. I've personally used his other products before, and they've been fantastic. The amount of thought that he's put into each and every one of what he's created has been incredible. I'd highly encourage you to try their free 14-day trial at campaignrefinery.com to see what world-class email marketing automation can do for you and your business. Massive thank you to Travis and Campaign Refinery for their support of the All About Digital Marketing show. Welcome to the All About Digital Marketing podcast. The show all about
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Brought to you by Social Link, a digital marketing agency specializing in social media and content marketing for brave brands and forward-thinking SMEs. I'm your host, Chris Bruno, and as always, we're here to bring you the most actionable tips, tricks, tools, and insights to help you achieve more when it comes to your digital marketing. Subscribe to the show and be sure to share with a friend if you found something useful or interesting. You can find all the show notes and more information on www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, man. Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
So I'm looking forward to this as well because we're going to be getting into talking about all sorts of things to do with websites. But before we get started, you are the founder of Yonder Agency. Can you give everyone at home that's listening a little bit of a background on who you are and what Yonder Agency does exactly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came from the corporate world for years, just trying to help corporations grow if they needed it, right? So before the corporate world, I was working in the nonprofit space, large churches here in the States, and then transitioned from there to agency life and corporations, and they kind of took me away from the small agency. And so I was kind of sitting in a meeting where I made the corporation I was working for a lot of money, and I was like, I think I could do this for small businesses and do it for myself. And really just kind of 4 years ago, started a small UX, UI, and website, agency. Didn't really market it or anything like that. And then last year, about this time, so Yonder got kind of a rebrand this time last year. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Tell everybody about Yonder and how we want to help businesses grow online, whether you're small or medium or large. It's really all the same system. It's all the same process. And really, I'm a small town guy. I grew up in the North Georgia mountains. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And luckily, I don't have a crazy country accent or anything like that. But I grew up in a small town, and I just know that the marketing there and websites and all that kind of stuff, people just don't know how to do it. And they, especially in this day and age, they just got to figure out how in the world do I get people to visit my store or come to my restaurant or really just pay attention to me on Facebook and all that good stuff. So Yonder really exists to help businesses grow. And, we have a saying around here, holler smarter. So that's that's a little bit about us.
That's awesome. And I like the fact that, you've mentioned that. For me, it's really, really key. I had this conversation with somebody the other day on another episode. There is no such thing as an offline business today, right? Everyone has to get to grips with the fact that whether it's a simple website, whether it's Google My Business, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it might be, people are going to want to find that online version of you. And it's become a huge
Absolutely.
part. And I think that's something that's really important, right? So small businesses can sometimes get carried away or get taken down a path which is really focusing on, you need this big, amazing, great, fancy website that's going to cost you tens of thousands and everything else. What I'd love to talk to you about today is the idea of actually what are the key basics for you, and what are the really important things, especially when you're talking to small businesses. What are the those really important first steps that people need to be taking online?
Yeah, and I love this conversation that I have with small businesses because they're like, hey, somebody quoted me $50,000 on a website, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Are they going to generate sales for you? And I tell small businesses all the time, like, if you can't explain what you sell within 15 seconds, you lose your audience. And a lot of these $50,000 and $100,000 website design companies tend to forget to tell the story about the business, right? And I'm not talking about like your grandpa started it in the 1900s or anything like that. I'm talking about, you know, if you're a plumber or if you're a restaurant or if you're a spa. I'm actually working with a spa right now that they want women to feel great. And I'm like, well, say that on your website. Like right now, it just says something about, your products or whatever. And it doesn't really explain what you guys do. And so it all comes down to having clear message first, and then you can get cute with your website. I have a saying, be clear over cute, because nobody's ever going to fault you for being clear. And look, people aren't going to be hanging out, website awards to all these small businesses. And people generally, when they get to your website, all they care about is, are you going to educate me on what I'm looking for? And are you going to scam me or whatever? And am I going to gain trust from you? And so, really, that's the simplest thing that we tell our customers walking in. Look, we want to tell your message and your story first, and then use like the cool latest designs or whatever.
I think that's really important as well, because I think people are way too obsessed with the idea of the fancy new toy or the shiny silver bullet that they're looking for that's going to magically change everything. And like you said, being super clear, who are you, what do you offer, and making that really visible straight away, right? People shouldn't have to search through a website for 20 minutes to figure out that you sell, I don't know, barbecues, for example. And I
Right.
think that there's a misunderstanding of the complexity needed. And I wonder what your opinion is on this, actually. I feel like there's so much content out there nowadays for small business owners to read, to listen to watch, whether it be on podcasts, blogs, everything else. But there's so much content out there. And I think some of it overcomplicates some of the issues. So people will start thinking about SEO and they'll start, really digging into these deep kind of subjects that potentially could take you 6 to 12 months to figure out with a huge investment of either time or money. And actually, when we come back down to it as the real basic truth of a website, it's not easy to build something, launch something, and for it to get suddenly flocks of visitors. But
Right.
for businesses that already exist, there's a huge viability to get the customers that already know about you to look at your website, to get involved, to be able to find products or purchase or anything else online. But there's also a way of shifting that existing bricks and mortar audience or business customer base to the online side of things. What's your kind of advice for companies in that sense?
Yeah. Yeah. We're in a day and age right now where if you want to build a website, if you want to start a company, you can do it within 24 hours and get it going. And then you can go watch a couple of YouTube things and like, am I doing the business the right way or whatever? And then you end up looking at, some kid in his parents' basement telling you how to do sales online and everything else. And it's kind of like one of those things of like, who do you listen to and like where do you go and everything else? And I tell people this all the time. If you look at the person that's talking to you, their website, and they're not giving away free advice, don't listen to them, because all they're trying to do is get their hand in your pocket to get more money out of you. So like you talk about the new person that's trying to build a website and the existing person that's trying to build a website. The secret is I tell all of my customers that are brand new to like been around for 100 years, hey, start giving value back to your customer. So you just said selling barbecues. I'm a big barbecue fan. And I actually have a barbecue client. I just spoke at a barbecue conference thing and all that kind of stuff. And so it's fresh in my mind right now. So a lot of these barbecue restaurants are like, well, how do we sell our products and how do we get people involved, right? And and it was funny in the room. There was people that were like in existence for a month, and there was people in existence for 50 years. And I go, look, you're going to start to gain traction if you offer somehow some high value content offer or lead generator. And what that means is basically something to get people to your website. So if you run a barbecue, if you're selling barbecues, a high value content offer is the best way to cook a brisket, to smoke a brisket, right? What are the best rubs to do for a Boston butt or a pork butt? If you don't start educating your people, they're going to land on your website. And if you're, and I've seen this before, where if you're selling barbecues and it's like the headline of your site says, your life just got better. Well, okay. Well, what do you do? And like you have to search and you have to go whatever. But if you just said, your life just got better because we sell the best barbecue pits on the planet, and people are going to flood into your restaurant or into your house, or everybody's going to want to have a party at your house because your barbecue tastes the best and we help make that happen, right? There's a difference there. You're telling a story, you're giving them like, oh man, I want to have the best barbecue in the neighborhood, or I want to have the best barbecue restaurant around town. And if you're selling that barbecue, that barbecue pit or whatever it is, you're telling them, you're casting that vision of what life will be like if you buy our product. I hope that makes sense. I feel like sometimes I get too far in the weeds about this stuff, and geek out.
Not at all. And I'm a big barbecue fan myself. So now I'm just thinking about food and barbecued brisket or some sort of shredded pork or yeah. Anyway, right. So we're getting getting massively distracted there. But I think this is something that's really important for a lot of people. It's that realization that giving away free content is a really good way of increasing that relationship, building the trust with a potential customer. And seeing the fact that there is literally millions upon millions, probably billions of pages of free content available, that people that, like you said, the horrible little kid who's telling everyone from his mom and dad's basement how to sell things, but you got to pay me for me to tell you how it worked for me and one thing and another. I think there's tons of that out there. And I talk about it a lot on this show because it really grinds my gears. The one that annoys me the most is, this funnel created $1 million in sales for me. If you implement this by paying me X, then I'll show you what it is. And you're like that. No, this funnel works for this person at this time during the economy. And it's not the same for everybody, right? There's principles to marketing and there's rules and there's laws that are applicable, but that doesn't mean that if you copy somebody else you're going to do well. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss, and especially when it comes to like a website, right? So you can look at your competitors and what they're doing, and you can get a sense of how they present things, what they say, the sort of layouts that they use maybe. But the reality is that you should be telling your story, and it should be written in the way that you come across, and it should be relevant to who you are as a company, not just something that you kind of feel like, if I steal that piece from here and that piece from there, I'm going to get something that really works and that's successful like they are. It's, for me anyway, and I wonder how you feel about this, but it's the idea of authentically showing, and like you said, telling your story, and especially in that, above the fold moment. Who are you? What you do should be there, and it should be clear, and it should be visible, and it shouldn't be overly complicated. And I think that's something that a huge amount of not just small businesses, but even some big businesses that we've had the opportunity to work with actually miss out on. And it's this overcomplicating things to try and make themselves maybe seem bigger or seem more professional or whatever it is that they think they're going to do. And it ultimately ends up actually ruining the user's experience, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you want to get me on a soapbox, I would love to do it because the funnel stuff, we use funnels every day. So the funnel is not what's wrong. It's the copy paste generation that we're in right now of like, I see an influencer or I see this guy, he's making millions of dollars and stuff like that. And I yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I just want to let small business, just really anybody listening to your podcast, do your research first on that quote influencer or YouTube star or whatever, because basically they're gaining followers just by really kind of putting a dream out there and seeing who gets it, right? If you guys remember, 2 years ago we didn't have this notion of influencers, right? We got kids now that are in high school that are going, well, what do you want to do for a living? Well, I want to be an influencer. What? Like, what do you mean you want to be an influencer? Like, it's like in the day of age of like, well, this other person does it. And look, they got a Ferrari and a Lamborghini in the background. It must be real, right? And I'm like, yeah, it could be real. But the problem is, do we know if they rented it? Is it somebody else's house? And I'll give you a perfect example. A couple of years ago, this guy wanted me to work with him, and I knew his lifestyle and everything else, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm looking forward to working with him because I thought he was authentic, right?" Well, we started going down this path, and I started to look at his. He posted a YouTube thing, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm at my house today, just hanging out at the pool, blah blah blah." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Wait a minute! I was just at that guy's house. That's not his house." Like, it kind of blew my mind, and so I just kind of canceled the contract right then and there. I was like, "Hey, if you can't be authentic with yourself, of you're a growing agency or if you're a growing company, and you want to pretend that you're 10, 15 years down the road, I can't." I can't really work with that. And so, to the folks that are trying to grow their business, I'll give you a perfect example. This is my own story, and hopefully it helps. And Chris, I wasn't planning on sharing this. And so basically, I left my job because I saw a need, right? And I think I made like $30,000 in my first year because I kept copying other people. I kept looking at other people's websites and going, oh, well, they must generate, millions of dollars and everything else. And finally, I had to restart. I even took jobs just to pay my bills because I was like, wait a minute, I'm not running an agency. I'm just a contractor right now. And Chris, and once I figured out how to be authentic with myself and say, no, I'm an agency owner and this is how I want to grow it myself. And so just in 12, and this is not me trying to like sell anything or whatever, just in 12 months time, I've been able to grow an agency that I love and enjoy. And am I making millions of dollars? No, but I'm happy. And my clients are happy. And the people that come through our doors, they see the experience and they enjoy it. That's really all that matters at the end of the day. Would I love to be a seven-figure agency? You bet. Are we on track to do that? Yep, we are. But I'm not going to like go and say, hey, you follow my path and you'll become a seven-figure agency within a year. That's not going to happen because I don't know your business. I don't know your story. But the way to get to being a seven-figure company is tell people who you are, educate them, and show them the value that they're going to bring to your company. That's the simplest thing, right? So if you're a restaurant or if you're a life insurance company, say, hey, look, death is, comes to the door. It's unexpected or whatever, but make sure your family's covered with our life insurance. We walk you through this crazy process on how to sign up. Like, people don't think life insurance is sexy or whatever. But the thing is, it's needed. And if you explain why it's needed, then people get it. And so that's what, I tell a lot of folks that come through our doors, or any kind of, when I'm doing a speaking event or whatever, saying, hey, look, you got into this business because you're passionate about it and you know how to do it really, really well. It's okay to admit that you're on your journey, and people are going to love that authenticity to it, and they're going to probably work with you more because you said, hey, look, 6 months ago I just wanted to start a dessert shop because I grew up watching my grandmother make pastries and stuff like that. And if you kind of give that backstory and tell people the reason why you started that business, you're going to have fans before you know it.
It's always interesting because loads of people kind of adhere to this idea that, fake it till you make it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm completely the opposite. Like, I have no issues. If you've just started a business, tell people you've just started a business. There's no point pretending you've been around for 20 years, because today, in about 6 seconds, people can find out when you registered the domain, when you set up the company. There is no hiding, right? And it's something that's quite difficult for a lot of people to do, especially in the early stages, which is, if you're a founder, if you're on your own, you've just set up your own business, the reality is that is it. It's you. The business is you. Now, you can call it the most fancy name in the world, and you can have a great domain name that costs you a fortune, and you can even pay tens of thousands for a great looking logo. None of it matters. The only thing people are buying at that stage is, for example, for you or for me, Chris. That's what they're looking at, right? They get to meet you, they have a chat with you, they're talking to you, and everything about the company, when you're a one-man band, when you're first starting, should be a reflection of you. So this is something that we talk to clients about loads, especially with not just website content, but blog articles or videos or social media content. If you're a surfer dude, right? You're one of those guys, you're pretty laid back, you don't wear a suit, you don't put a shirt and tie on, you're happy being in your boardies all day, every day, and you talk pretty chilled. That should reflect in everything that you're doing online. Because
Absolutely.
the day that somebody finally has you on the phone and wants to start doing work with you, and you start giving them the corporate chat, and you turn up to your meeting in a shirt, tie, suit, whatever else, people are going to be like, that this doesn't correlate, this doesn't make any sense. And people seem to be kind of afraid of showing who they really are. And I don't think a lot of people realize that actually who you really are is your biggest asset. Because
Absolutely.
what it does it naturally, right? It does natural selection for you. There's some people that are going to watch a video of you online on your social media or on your website and go, I don't like this guy. And that's absolutely fine, because I don't want that guy to fill in a contact form, to jump on a call with me, and 2 calls later go, I don't want to work with you. And I've wasted a ton of time because it was never going to work, because the guy has no connection to who I am. But I'm happy when somebody does watch one of our videos and decides to message me and says, can we have a call? Because I'm sitting there thinking, this guy knows who I am. Right? So straight away, the call is the call, because on all our videos, I talk pretty much the same way. I run the podcast in very much the same way. I like to have a conversation. I pretty much only ever talk about what I think and what I believe and how we've worked. And ultimately that basically permeates through everything. So whether it be our blog articles, whether it be videos, whether it be the podcast, whether it be, we're even doing like a new series of super raw video content with my commercial director. The 2 of us just jump on a Zoom call and we just basically record it, and we chat for 40 minutes about 3 or 4 different subjects. But it gives people a way to see who you really are. And I think that's such an important thing, whether it's your website copy, your social media content, or even your email marketing that you're sending out. If it's not who you are, then it's not going to have that uniformity, and it's not going to really showcase who you are and allow people to get to know you.
I love it. And I'll tell you, I'm the prime example. If somebody goes to my website, they'll see me. And look, I don't want you to be shocked to realize that I'm not a model looking person. I consider myself a husky Don Draper. If y'all watch Mad Men, but
that's fantastic. A husky Don Draper. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, I need to copyright it, because I said that in a conference a couple of years ago, and the crowd lost it. And look, I'm a large fellow. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm not 200 pounds. We'll just keep it at that. I wear a trucker hat with my logo on it. I have a big beard. I got thick frame glasses. I'm from the southeastern United States. And people all of a sudden they just have this picture in their mind of this guy that's just, I should be a pit master by now. And that's all I should be. I should not be an agency owner helping people with their marketing and their messaging because I don't look like I should be. I don't look like a Don Draper. I don't look like these kind of people. But literally every meeting that I go to, I wear the same thing pretty much every single day. It's a black t-shirt, jeans, and my Jordans, and my trucker hat. And I walk into a meeting, and I met the mayor of my town, and I hadn't met him before. And there's city council and everything else. And I walked in, and I didn't dress up or anything. And there they are in their suits and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" They're like, "This guy's going to help us." At first, they thought that I was lost. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm Chris from Yonder Agency. I'm here to help you with your digital marketing." And they're like, well, it was kind of refreshing because they're like, "Oh, so you are the same guy from this website?" I'm like, "Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to change for you just because, I mean, you're hiring me because there's something about my personality that you like. I don't know what it is. Like, until I had the confidence to walk in through a room and go, 'Hey, hi, my name's Chris Thomas. I run a marketing agency called Yonder.' I mean, I need to fit that part. I need to be that person that I want to be, not, some tight dude that's just like, I'm not going to work out every day just to look like I'm going to be in a model because I run an agency, because I want people to feel comfortable. I'm so laid back, and I want people to understand, who I am and what my personality is. And it's kind of one of those things that just kind of shines through. I don't do it intentionally. I don't realize that I do it intentionally, I guess. But yeah, man, I love what you were just saying, because I'm the prime example of like a person that should not be doing what they're doing, just purely based off looks and education and everything else. Yeah, people just want to know who you are and the value that you're going to bring, and that's it. I mean, I was talking yesterday to this guy, and I didn't realize who he was or whatever, and we're going to be working with him, and he is the largest distributor of restaurant chains and stuff like that. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And he wants me to help market all of these restaurants that he's an owner of. And I'm like, and it's funny because he said, "Look, I've had a lot of people come to my office with suits and fancy slides and everything else. And you and we met at a tequila tasting. By the way, I love my job. So we met at a tequila tasting, and he said, "Hey, what is it that you do?" And I explained it, and he goes, I need somebody like you." And I was like, "Great." You know, and so I know that we're talking about websites, and it's kind of just it's part of that. You can have a website now. So Chris, you'll probably, I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of people have websites that just have a lot of noise on them. So that's not what I'm telling you to put on your website. Do not put all the noise of like, in 1969, my dad started, all this kind of stuff. Don't bore people out of the gate. Put that, I call it the junk drawer, down to the bottom of your footer, like our story or about or whatever. What you need on your homepage, the first thing that people see is a good headline that, it's a one liner. It's a thing that if you're telling somebody at a party what you do, how would you say that, right? I've had to refine that all the time. And I give you an example. About 5 years ago, people say, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm a UX designer." And people just go, "What is that?" And then I'm like, "Oh, well," and I just went down this like crazy rabbit hole of like, what do I do? And now what I do, because I'm not a UX designer, I run a marketing agency, and somebody, if, for example, tequila tasting, somebody goes, "Hey, what do you do?" I go, "Hey, you know how like you're trying to get people to come to your website and engage with you, or you trying to figure out your social media, how you get more followers, or you wish your email list was just a little bit bigger?" Well, that's kind of what we help do. We help bring all that stuff together for your company to grow, and we help businesses grow online. And he's like, "Wow, okay, so you're a digital marketing company?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, nobody's ever explained it that way." And it creates intrigue, right? If you explain it that way, of, "Hey, we solve a problem, and this is how we do it." And where I used to just tell this long drawn out story of like, "Oh, well, I was sitting here." People get lost, and so just think of an elevator pitch, a one liner, and I think everybody listening probably be like, "Oh, well, it has to be that simple." Yeah, it does. I mean, you're going to lose people. I don't know if you guys over in the UK have these people called like good old boys, where they're kind of like simple people, and all they just want to do is just have a simple life. And so what I over here, they're good old boys. They're just these country folk and everything else, people that I grew up with, obviously. But if I can't put a website in front of them, and if a good old boy can't figure out what we do, we're failing. And so just remember that. Just be like, "Hey, who is my audience? Who do I want to put this in front of?" And if they can't figure it out, then something's wrong.
We often go through this with clients as well. And so I don't know if you've ever read Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Love it.
Yeah. So great book. And, we actually end up either giving it away to people or sort of saying, "Look, you really need to read this." And what happens invariably, we'll start talking about, what do you do? And people focus on the product. And then we'll say, "Okay, cool. So why do you do it?" And they'll be like that. "Well, want to make money, or we want to make the best possible SaaS product." And you're like, "That okay, that's not the point, right?" And something I think is really interesting with what you said about the story there, where you're telling somebody, like your social media not getting enough engagement, or you're not generating leads, you haven't got that, the mail list could be a bit bigger. All of those things are focusing on what the actual problem is for the client, and it's putting the client at the center of the story as well. So again, you could easily be that really boring guy at a party, and what do you do? And you're like that. "Well, I'm a digital marketer," and everyone goes, "Oh, okay, great," and they just kind of walk off. But by changing that story and flipping it, right now, you're telling the same story, because that is fundamentally what you do every day. But what you're doing is you're doing it from a site which is somebody's going, "Hang on a second, I have those problems. Hang on a second, I'd like to have more people on my mail list. Hang on a second, I'd like more engagement on social media. What am I doing wrong? And actually, how do I have a chat with you to find out more?" And I think that's something that's hugely impactful for lots of people. And for anyone listening, read the book, Start With Why. Try and figure out what that why actually is, because invariably, talking to you, Chris, you started your company because you saw a need. There's a gap in the market because there's people out there that don't have access to the big agencies, but that need the same help to be able to compete with big competitors, etc. And actually, that becomes your why. I want to bring this, and I want to help those people. And I want to give them access to be able to do something different. And I think that's huge, right? And a lot of companies really, really struggle with that, unfortunately. And it's something that most people want help with. Most people don't know where to start necessarily with. But yeah, we have definitely got sidetracked away from talking about websites. We're definitely going a little bit higher level in terms of what people could do. But let's try and see if I can bring it back to websites a little bit. In terms of, like, for small businesses out there, obviously there's a ton of options today, right? They can go and try and build out a website on Squarespace, on Wix, on, I don't even know if Weebly and stuff like that still exists, but I can only think of WordPress and Squarespace off the top of my head. But what are some of the key factors, or the key really important things that anyone who's about to go out and start their own company's website should really be focused on to try and give them the best possible chance?
Yeah, I will mention this. We use Webflow. We use Webflow for building our websites, just because ease of use and all that kind of stuff. The best thing that I would do is start with the headline. So if you're working your way down the page, so navigation. So a lot of people just put everything that they could navigate to on the navigation. And honestly, you probably just need two or three things. Your homepage, which you really don't have to have a button for that. Just have your logo linked back to your homepage, but about and contact. And you can put the story stuff, you can put in probably obviously if you're in a service industry or whatever, put services. So navigation, super simple. Also with like a contact us button down up at the top, your phone number or your email button or something, something that they go, okay, because they're going to come back to that later. They're going to scroll down to the page and then they're going to scroll back up and they go, okay, how do I contact this person? And if there's a big phone number or like email or contact us button on the right hand side, you're doing good. After the navigation, it's really your header. Think of an image. Generally, we do like we call it a hero image because that's what it is. It's the hero shot. If you think of movies and stuff like that, of like the one image that you remember from a movie, put that there, right? It's kind of that thing. So if you're a pastry shop, put some picture of a pastry that's going to make people want to come into your store. And then you put your headline there of like, the one-liner, the elevator pitch in your header above the fold, because people may not scroll past it. So after you kind of look at that big header thing, kind of just make your page. It doesn't have to be totally long, right? So you have your header image, hero, and all that good stuff. Below that, just a little bit of blurb about what you guys do. Again, just reiterating it, and then more images of what you do, because people connect with imagery. If you can do it with people in it, people connect with people, obviously. And just a little bit of like, I would definitely put reviews on your site, just to say, best pastry shop in town, love the service, that kind of stuff. People go, oh yeah, I love that, because people want to see reviews from other people. And really, you just finish up with a footer of like kind of your junk drawer or the drawer of your house that everything just goes into. You can put all the other stuff of like the history and all that kind of stuff down in the footer if people want to find it. But really, they're coming to your site because somebody referred them to your website, right? And if they feel like they landed on the wrong spot, then you're going to lose people. So really, just think about the sections of your site. So the first one being the header, which that is your one-liner. The next section, just a little blurb about you, just a small little thing. The next section being add the value of what you bring, all that good stuff. The next section, educate. And then the next section, just reiterate, your one-liner again and kind of follow it up. And then with a little contact us button, or, sign up for, 5 ways to improve whatever high value content offer. You can also put your high value content offer lead generator up at the top of the header. It's like, if you run a pastry shop, 3 ways to bake the perfect cake or whatever, people are going to sign up for that. Make it make sense. But when it comes to mind of like the structure of the site, that's really what our formula is. And hopefully that makes sense, because I try not to go way too into the weeds or details of each of those sections.
No, I think it's great. And I think as well, there's something to be taken away from that, which is keep it simple, right? Sometimes we try and overcomplicate. We want 30 different services and 400 different products and 600 pages of content because we read an article about SEO being a great way of doing things. And what people don't necessarily realize is actually, if somebody comes to your website, do they know what you do? Is it simple for them to do something, take some form of an action? And is that action clear, right? What is it that I'm doing? Am I giving you my email address, but what's that for? Or am I booking a call with you, but how does this work? Or, whatever it might be. Keep it simple sometimes is phenomenal. And I think people can get overly they just overcomplicate it for themselves, really, more than anything else, thinking that you need to keep adding, thinking that you need to add more, as opposed to actually just get what you have right and make sure that it's, again, I think this is really important, putting the customer first, right? It's got to be about them. It's not about what you want to build. It's not about what you want to sell. It's not about you wanting to sell more. It's about them wanting to buy more. It's about them wanting to engage with your brand. It's about them getting some value for it. And I think that's really hard for some companies to get to grips with at the early stages.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people expect the first time somebody visits your website that they're going to engage with you. And really, it takes 2 or 3 times for people to really reach out, unless you have a sales funnel going to that. But yeah, a lot of people get frustrated, like, oh, all these people are coming on the site, but they're not converting. Well, the good thing is people are coming to your site. Maybe it's time to look at your messaging, and maybe that content, the contact button is not there, or maybe put that lead generator. If you feel like you get a lot of traffic and you just don't get interaction, that's when it's time to kind of do a little bit of A/B testing of, like, putting it in front of potential customers and saying, hey, does this make sense? That's always good too, because a lot of times people just think, because if you keep it simple, that's great. And a lot of times people go, oh, well, I followed the formula, but people aren't converting. Well, that's when you start to look at it and start to ask questions to people that aren't in your inner circle. Like if it's a customer that walks through a store, or if people outside of your email list, and say, hey, do you mind looking at this website? Tell me, and come up with 3 or 4 questions. Be like, what is it that we do? And how can you get in touch, or whatever? And start to do an audit on your site with real users. You're going to get a lot of value out of that.
I think there's always so much to be learned from your customers. And again, if you're building out something, if you're creating a product, find what people are already looking for. Is there a void that you can help fill? And if not, ask people. Like, genuinely, you said it there, Chris. Ask people. You want to ask your next 25 customers that walk in the door and say, what would be really useful for you? Or, what sort of things would help you at home, or what sort of things would help you in your business, depending on what you sell. But that, to me, is where the real, so us as an agency, we talk about putting the social back into social media. And literally, people are using social media like it's a bullhorn, like literally just shouting and screaming at people, telling them that you've got a next 10% offer, or buy one, get one free, or this is what I do and this is amazing, and whatever else. And you're sat there going, okay, cool. So we talk to companies and they say to us, we don't get much engagement. And I'll ask the question, when was the last time you asked your audience to get involved in the conversation? And usually it goes deadly quiet, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing is true for your website, right? If you looked at your website, not as I built it, I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But if you look at it and you said, right, hang on a second, if I was a customer and I was looking for X, is this where I would go and buy it from? And you look at it and you, pure as day, like you can't lie to yourself about it, right? You have to look at it with real, no rose tinted glasses, and say to yourself, would I buy from this website? And ultimately, I think when people can manage to do that, they start to put the customer first again. They start to really kind of understand that process. And then you start to create something that actually works for them, not something that makes you feel good about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it. That's such a good point.
So listen, Chris, this has been an awesome conversation, but penultimate question for you. What's your favorite platform online at the moment for you personally, as opposed to for the business, but which is the one that's getting your attention at the moment?
Oh, gosh. I would say it's between Webflow and ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign, we're now and a partner with them. And if you're looking for an easy way to create email automations and stuff like that, and they don't pay me to say this, I'm just a big fan. But if you're looking for email automations, just simple stuff to be able to be, hey, you've been a customer for a year, that kind of stuff, it's great. So I'd say really our top 2, and I would probably say ActiveCampaign and then Webflow, because we can build a site pretty much anywhere. But if you don't have a good way to keep in contact with your customers on an automated way, you're kind of missing out.
Awesome. Chris, thanks again for coming on the show. Before you go, where can people find you online and what's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're Yonder Agency on all social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And our website is yonderagency.com. And you can see this husky Don Draper in a video we just put out a couple weeks ago. And you can actually learn a little bit really quickly in our new promo video. And then, sign up for, we actually walk through people right now. We have a free content thing. And we did it with ConvertKit. ConvertKit is also really good, but a lot of our customers are like, is there something that's like cheaper or free and not so robust? And ConvertKit is really good as well. But we have a free thing that walks you through exactly how to put a email list together and how to generate that email list and to get more customers through your door. So yonderagency.com, and feel free to give us a holler anytime.
Thank you again, man. And looking forward to one day catching up in person and having a barbecue.
I love it. I would love it. That'd be great.
Take care, man.
You too.
The All About Digital Marketing podcast is brought to you by Social Inc., a distributed digital marketing agency specialized in delivering results through online campaigns. Whether it's content marketing, social media marketing, online advertising, or web design, we've got you covered, from strategy through to delivery. If you're struggling with your digital marketing, get in touch today by simply visiting www.socialinc.co.